My husband's childhood friend faked a wine spill to frame me, then 6 cameras exposed her at dinner. My husband's childhood friend poured red wine down the front of her own dress, turned toward the entire dinner table, and accused me of shoving her. Before I could defend myself, my husband looked at her with an exhausted expression and said, "Vanessa, the next time you try to frame my wife, make sure you are not standing in a room with 6 security cameras and my mother holding the remote." The dining room went completely silent. Vanessa Hart stood beside the long table in a pale blue dress that was now stained from her chest to her waist. One hand clutched the empty wine glass, while the other rested dramatically over her heart. She stared at me as though I had deliberately attacked her in front of everyone. "Claire, I know you have never liked me," she said, her voice trembling in exactly the right places. "But you did not have to humiliate me in front of Adrian's family." Several relatives gasped. Someone dropped a fork against a plate. I had not touched her. My hand was still resting on the back of my chair, at least 3 feet away from where she stood. Vanessa had tipped the glass herself, but she had already widened her eyes, softened her voice, and angled her body so the stain faced my husband. She looked like a wounded bird who had somehow rehearsed where every feather should fall. That was Vanessa's specialty. She never claimed she wanted trouble. Trouble simply appeared wherever she happened to be standing, usually with an audience nearby and Adrian somewhere within sight. I opened my mouth to explain what had happened, but Adrian spoke first. His voice was calm, which somehow made the words land harder. "Vanessa, if you are determined to accuse my wife of something, at least choose a room that cannot replay the incident from 6 different angles." At the head of the table, my mother-in-law, Vivian Hartwell, lifted a small black remote. She wore an emerald silk blouse and the kind of composed smile that made people reconsider every decision that had brought them into the room. "Would you prefer camera 1, camera 3, or the chandelier view?" she asked. "The chandelier angle is not especially flattering, but it is extremely honest." Vanessa stared at her. Tessa, Adrian's younger sister, leaned forward with visible excitement. "Please use the chandelier camera. It captures hand movement beautifully." My father-in-law Martin looked up from his soup. "I thought I came here for dinner," he said. "Apparently I stayed for a documentary." The color drained from Vanessa's face. "Adrian, I do not understand why you are speaking to me this way." I slipped. Claire was right beside me. Adrian walked around the table and stopped behind my chair. He placed one hand on the back of it, not as a dramatic show of protection, but as a quiet reminder that he knew exactly where he stood. "Claire was near you," he said. "She did not touch you. You did not even see what happened." "No," he replied, "but the house did." Vivian pressed the remote. The large television above the fireplace came to life, replacing a landscape painting with a security feed of the dining room. The footage showed Vanessa standing beside the table. It showed me walking past her with more than enough space between us. Then it showed Vanessa glancing toward Adrian, checking the rest of the room, and deliberately tilting her wrist. The wine poured down her dress in perfect high definition. The family fell silent again, but the mood had changed. This time, no one was shocked. They were trying not to laugh. One of Adrian's uncles lifted his napkin to his mouth. A cousin whispered, "The chandelier angle deserves an award." Martin adjusted his glasses. "That camera has better timing than most actors." Vivian kept her eyes on Vanessa. "I installed the system because I was worried about burglars. I did not realize it would also preserve live theater." Vanessa's lips trembled. "I lost my balance." Tessa pointed at the screen. "You were standing completely still." "I was emotional." "That explains the expression," Tessa said. "It does not explain the wrist movement." I watched Vanessa's face shift as she searched for another version of the story. For years, she had survived situations like this by sounding fragile enough that questioning her appeared cruel. The difference that night was that no one had to rely on impressions. The television had already answered the only question that mattered. Tessa reached for a second remote. "Should I replay it more slowly?" Vivian nodded. "Please do. I paid for high-definition recording and I believe in receiving full value." The video rewound. Vanessa's hand moved again, this time in slow motion. Her wrist turned. The wine left the glass in a deliberate red arc and spread over the front of her dress like a carefully planned waterfall. Tessa hummed a tragic violin melody under her breath. Martin raised one finger as though judging a sporting event. Strong follow-through. A cousin coughed into his napkin to hide his laughter. Vanessa's eyes filled, but no tears appeared. Vivian noticed that too. "Trying to cry without producing tears is exhausting," she said. "It is also unhelpful when the evidence is already on the television." For 1 second, Vanessa's wounded expression twisted into anger. She repaired it quickly, but not quickly enough. Everyone saw what was underneath. I might have felt sorry for her if that dinner had been an isolated incident. It was not. For 4 months, Vanessa had been creating small situations designed to make me look insecure, controlling, or cruel. None of them had been dramatic enough to confront individually. Together, they had made every gathering feel like a test I had never agreed to take. She called Adrian late at night because thunder frightened her, because a kitchen light had stopped working, or because she claimed she felt unusually lonely. She once sent me a cropped screenshot showing Adrian asking, "Are you safe?" She conveniently removed the 16 messages she had sent before he replied, along with the part where he told her to contact an electrician and go to bed. At Adrian's birthday dinner, she arrived wearing almost the exact shade of green I had worn to the previous family event. She spent the evening telling relatives that she and I had very different energy, as though my marriage were a personality contest she had entered without telling me. Whenever I walked into a room, she would stop laughing and lower her voice, creating the impression that I had interrupted something intimate. At first, I thought she was simply needy. Eventually, I understood the difference. Needy people ask for help. Vanessa arranged audiences. Adrian leaned toward me while the family continued watching the replay. "Are you okay?" he asked quietly. I nodded. He did not announce that he was defending me. He did not describe me as helpless or turn the scene into a performance of his own. He simply stayed beside me. That was enough. Vanessa noticed. Her expression shook. "Adrian, are you really going to humiliate me over a misunderstanding?" "We already discussed evidence," he replied. Something about that sentence changed the atmosphere. Vanessa went still, and I realized this confrontation had not begun with the spilled wine. Adrian had known she might try something. So had the rest of his family. What Vanessa believed was another opening act was actually the final review. Vivian set the remote on the table. "You may sit down, dear, although I am concerned the chair might somehow become involved in the accusation." Tessa covered a laugh with her hand. Vanessa looked around at the relatives, searching for sympathy. "I already feel unwanted here. Adrian and I grew up together. I only came because Vivian invited me. I would never want to come between anyone." Adrian raised his eyebrows. "Then why do you keep placing yourself in the middle seat?" Vanessa froze. Tessa immediately reached for her phone. "Excellent question. Fortunately, I brought the seating chart." I turned to her. "You brought documentation to dinner?" "I brought lipstick and documentation," she replied. "A woman should be prepared." The television changed again. A photograph of Vivian's original seating plan appeared. Adrian's name card was beside mine. Vanessa had been assigned a seat between Tessa and one of the aunts. Tessa swiped to the next photograph, taken about an hour before dinner. In that version, my card had been moved 2 places away, and Vanessa's card was beside Adrian's. Her handwriting was clearly visible on the altered cards. Vanessa wrote the letter V with an exaggerated curl that looked as if it had practiced for a pageant. She forced a laugh. "I was helping with the decorations. I studied the screen. Most people decorate a dining table with flowers. You decorated it with yourself." A cousin laughed openly this time. Vivian gave Vanessa a cool smile. "Place cards in this house are not emotional support objects. They stay where I put them." "I did not think it mattered," Vanessa insisted. "Adrian and I have known each other since we were children. This family always treated me like one of you." Adrian no longer looked amused. "Being part of my childhood does not give you ownership in my marriage." The room quieted. Vanessa stared at him. "You changed after you married Claire." "Yes," he said. "I became a husband. That was the intention." Warmth spread through my chest. It was not only that he defended me, it was the certainty in his voice. He did not treat marriage as a competition between present commitment and childhood history. There was nothing to debate. Vivian lifted her glass of sparkling water. "I raised one son. I did not raise him to function as a community boyfriend." Martin nodded. "Shared property is appropriate for vacation homes, not children." Tessa whispered. "Dad has officially entered the argument." Vanessa's face flushed. "I cannot believe all of you are ganging up on me." "No one is attacking you," Adrian said. "We are checking whether your statements are true." That difference mattered. Vanessa had always turned questions into cruelty. When someone asked her for proof, she claimed they were insensitive. When someone established a boundary, she said she was being excluded. When I stood beside my own husband, she acted as though I had deliberately taken something from her. Her survival depended on keeping every situation emotionally vague. That night, the family refused to give her any fog to hide inside. Vanessa grabbed her phone. "Fine, since everyone suddenly cares about proof, I will show you what Claire sent me." She opened a screenshot and held it toward the table. The visible message from me read, "Stay away from Adrian." Several relatives looked in my direction. Vanessa's eyes brightened with a small flash of triumph. "I did not want to bring this up," she said, "but Claire has been sending messages like this. I kept quiet because I wanted peace." Adrian took the phone and studied the screenshot. "Is that the full conversation?" Vanessa tightened her fingers around the device. "It is enough." Tessa smiled. "That means it is not." Before Vanessa could stop her, Tessa connected her own phone to the television. "Vanessa, you forwarded those screenshots to 4 cousins and forgot that one of them was me. That is not betrayal. That is poor file management." The entire conversation appeared on the screen. Vanessa had written, "I know Adrian better than you ever will. I knew him before he became this version of himself. You married him after the difficult years. Some women are wives, but other women feel like home. If I had truly wanted him, you would never have had a chance." My response appeared beneath those messages. "Stay away from Adrian if your goal is to disrespect our marriage." The family's reaction shifted slowly from uncertainty to disgust. Aunt Helen shook her head. Vanessa's mouth opened, but nothing came out. I folded my arms. Cropping a screenshot does not make it honest. It only gives the lie better tailoring. Vivian nodded. And the tailoring is poor. The seams are obvious. Tessa zoomed in. The font sizes did not even match. I found that personally offensive. You are all twisting this, Vanessa said. Adrian's expression did not change. We discussed evidence. The sentence struck again like a bell. Each time he said it, another layer of Vanessa's performance fell away. She stepped back and drew a shaky breath. I need some air. Of course she did. Every dramatic exit she had attempted in the past had been rewarded by someone following her. A relative would comfort her. A friend would reassure her. In earlier years, before Adrian recognized the pattern, he had occasionally checked on her because he believed politeness was the responsible response. Vanessa had mistaken that politeness for permanent access. That night, no one followed. She made it 3 steps toward the sitting area before stopping. When she realized Adrian was still beside me, she turned around. Her eyes looked wet, but her expression remained calculating. Adrian, how can you behave as though I mean nothing? Last week you sent me a voice message saying you missed how things used to be. My fingers went cold. Vanessa lifted her phone and played an audio clip. Adrian's voice filled the room. Sometimes I miss how things used to be. We were all together then. Everything felt simpler. She stopped the recording there. The room fell quiet. Vanessa looked at me with carefully measured sadness. I did not want Claire to hear that because I knew she would misunderstand. Adrian stared at her for several seconds. Then he laughed once, without amusement. Cropping screenshots was already ambitious. Editing audio has apparently become your full-time hobby. Tessa clapped her hands together. I have the complete recording. The television changed again. This time, it showed a video from a charity reunion attended by Adrian and several old family friends. He stood among a group of people, holding a microphone as they recorded a message connected to Vivian's foundation. Vanessa was visible several feet away, smiling at the camera. The full sentence played. Sometimes I miss how things used to be. We were all together then, and everything felt simpler. But people grow up, life changes, and the best thing old friends can do is respect the lives we choose as adults. On the screen, Adrian continued, For me, that life is Claire. She is the person I chose. Tessa paused the video on Vanessa's smiling face. The freeze frame is unfortunate, she said, but useful. Aunt Helen leaned back in her chair. So this was a group recording? Adrian nodded. There were at least 12 people standing there. Martin looked at Vanessa. If every woman who heard that speech were my son's soulmate, he would need a stadium, an administrative staff, and several attorneys. I did not edit it to hurt anyone, Vanessa said. I looked at the television. No, you edited it so I would enter a lie and finish building it in my own head. Adrian's fingers brushed mine beneath the edge of the table. Vanessa saw the gesture. Her breath caught, and she stepped backward again. Then she swayed toward him. She was nearly 6 feet away. Yet somehow her entire body tilted directly toward Adrian as though gravity had selected him personally. She extended one trembling hand and let herself fall. Adrian calmly stepped sideways. Martin did move, but not toward Vanessa. He lunged toward the sideboard and caught the dessert tray before it could slide to the floor. Vanessa landed dramatically on the sofa. Martin looked down at the rescued tiramisu and said, Priorities. For a moment, no one spoke. Adrian stared at Vanessa. You fell toward me from the other side of the room. That was not an accident. That was a commute. Vanessa clutched her ankle. I twisted it. I leaned forward slightly. Do you need ice, a doctor, or an audience? Her eyes flashed with anger before she lowered them. I did not mean to cause trouble. Vivian sighed. You use that sentence so often that I am considering having it printed on the napkins. Tessa tapped her phone. Another camera view appeared. The footage showed Vanessa checking Adrian's position, looking toward me, preparing her body, and then falling after Adrian stepped aside. She landed on the sofa with the controlled movement of someone who had practiced fainting but had forgotten to study physics. Tessa shook her head. She produces more false emergencies than my phone does. Vanessa sat upright. Humiliation had replaced fragility. This is insane. You all planned this. No, Adrian said. You planned it. We documented it. Vivian stood. She did not raise her voice, and that made the room feel even colder. Vanessa, I have known you since you were 10 years old. You were always dramatic, but I believed a dramatic child might still grow into a decent adult. I waited. I gave you chances. Then you began directing that behavior at my daughter-in-law. Vanessa's face crumpled. Vivian, I love this family. That is precisely why we tolerated so much, Vivian replied. We hoped you would eventually behave like someone who deserved to remain close to it. Tessa carried her laptop to the television. Should we begin the green tea review? Adrian closed his eyes. Tessa, what is the green tea review? Mom named it. Vivian did not deny the accusation. I looked at my mother-in-law. You gave this an official title? Only privately. Tessa opened a presentation. Large green letters appeared across the screen. Vanessa's greatest performances. Martin leaned back in his chair. The documentary has chapters. Vanessa jumped to her feet. You made a slideshow about me? Vivian looked almost offended. You created the material. Tessa simply organized the archive. The first slide was titled Fake Tears. 3 recorded incidents. It included a photograph from Adrian's office party in which Vanessa pressed a tissue beneath completely dry eyes while checking whether he was watching. The next category was strategic seating, 5 incidents. The altered place cards from that evening appeared alongside photographs from previous dinners, where Vanessa had switched chairs or inserted herself beside Adrian. Then came cropped screenshots, 2 incidents. The altered conversation was displayed beside the full version. Cropped audio, 1 particularly ambitious attempt. Tessa had added the frozen image from the charity recording. Sudden injuries, 4 incidents. One clip showed Vanessa bumping lightly against a chair, looking toward Adrian, and then announcing that she had hurt herself. Borrowed childhood memories, 11 incidents. The slide contained screenshots of old photographs Vanessa repeatedly posted in the family group chat immediately before events Adrian and I hosted. Each photograph was accompanied by nostalgic captions about how no one understood him the way the people from his childhood did. Emotional emergency calls, 9 incidents. Call logs filled the screen. I turned toward Adrian. 9? He winced. I answered 3. After that, I started documenting everything. Tessa clicked to the final category, I do not want to cause trouble speeches. Beneath it, she had written, data limit exceeded. I stared at the presentation. My friend Rachel would have admired Tessa's commitment to organization. I made a mental note to introduce them. Vanessa looked desperately around the room. This is bullying. No, Adrian said. Bullying would have been forcing Claire to defend herself privately against each small trap while everyone else accepted your version. This is a review of repeated behavior. Vivian picked up the remote again. Green tea is pleasant when it stays in a cup. It becomes far less appealing when it spends months trying to attach itself to someone else's husband. The room erupted in laughter. For the first time that evening, Vanessa stopped pretending to be weak. Her face hardened, and she looked directly at me. You think you won because Adrian defended you tonight? The laughter disappeared. There it was, her real voice. No trembling, no wounded innocence, no claim that she was confused. I had him first, she said. I know his childhood. I know what frightened him, what he loved to eat, and what he dreamed about before you existed in his life. You only know the man he became after me. I wish I could say the words did not hurt. They did, although not because I believed Adrian wanted her. I had never believed that. What hurt was that Vanessa knew exactly where to press. For months, she had reminded me of years I had not lived, jokes I did not understand, and memories in which I could never appear. She had turned the simple fact that Adrian possessed a past into a suggestion that I was permanently late to my own marriage. For one breath, the room blurred around me. Then Adrian found my hand. He did not grip it dramatically. He only held it firmly enough to bring me back into the present. You knew the boy who believed studying dinosaurs was a complete career plan, he told Vanessa. Claire knows the man who pays the mortgage, folds laundry, argues with the tax software, and has chosen his wife in front of you repeatedly tonight. Martin lifted his fork. For the record, the dinosaur plan had potential. A wave of laughter loosened the tension, but Adrian did not smile. You keep presenting childhood as proof of ownership. That receipt expired years ago. The sting inside me faded. Vanessa had memories. I had the adult man who decided what those memories meant and where they belonged. Tessa's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen, then slowly raised her head. Apparently, we have reached the relatives section. Vanessa froze. Adrian's eyes narrowed. What did you send? Tessa tapped the laptop. A new collection of screenshots appeared. They were messages Vanessa had sent to various Hartwell relatives over several months. Claire does not like me, but I try not to show how much it hurts. I think Adrian feels trapped, although I would never say that to him. I miss the old Adrian before Claire changed him. I hope Vivian still considers me family. I am afraid Claire will force Adrian to cut me off. I know I should not care, but sometimes it feels as though I lost my home. Vanessa's lower lip began trembling again. I was expressing my feelings. Vivian's eyes turned cold. Feelings belong in a private conversation or a journal. Strategy is what you send to 12 relatives before a family dinner. Adrian stepped forward. You were not looking for emotional support. You were building a jury. I looked at Vanessa. Unfortunately for you, the jury asked to see the evidence. Aunt Helen crossed her arms. You told me Claire refused to allow you to attend brunch. Vanessa swallowed. Aunt Helen turned toward me. I owe you an apology. I should have asked you directly. I nodded. I appreciated the apology, but I did not rush to make her guilt comfortable. For months, I had been expected to carry the consequences of stories no one had bothered to verify. Vanessa clutched the wet fabric of her dress. You are all acting as though Claire is perfect. I laughed softly. No one said I was. Adrian looked at me. Claire forgot the birthday breakfast she planned for me last year. I had the flu, I said. You ordered lunch later and wrote I am sorry on a pancake. Martin nodded approvingly. That sounds like marriage. Vivian looked back at Vanessa. Claire does not need to be perfect. She only needs to avoid staging crimes against herself during dinner. Before Vanessa could respond, a young waiter appeared in the doorway carrying a tray of sauce dishes. He stopped the moment he realized everyone was looking at him. His face went pale. Vivian set the remote down. Owen, is there something you would like to tell us before anyone mysteriously falls? The waiter's cheeks turned red. Vanessa's shoulders tightened. I noticed. So did Adrian. Apparently, every Hartwell noticed, because the entire family turned toward Owen at once. I am sorry, ma'am, he said. Do not, Vanessa snapped. It was the worst possible response for someone still claiming innocence. Owen placed the tray on the sideboard with shaking hands. She told me it was supposed to be a harmless family prank. She asked me to bump into Mrs. Hartwell later while carrying the red sauce. Then I was supposed to say I slipped because she moved suddenly. Aunt Helen gasped. Vanessa looked as though she wanted the floor to open beneath her. Adrian's face became completely still. Vanessa. She shook her head rapidly. It was not serious. It was supposed to be funny. I looked at the bowls of red sauce. Funny for whom? She had no answer. Vivian took one slow breath. In this house, we season food. We do not season evidence. Owen looked close to tears. I am sorry. I did not know she intended anything serious. Vivian's expression softened slightly. You may return to the kitchen. In the future, if someone asks you to participate in emotional theater involving tomato sauce, speak to the chef. Owen left as quickly as he could. Vanessa began moving toward the doorway, clearly intending to follow him, but Tessa stopped her with a single sentence. She is typing. Everyone turned. Vanessa held her phone low beside her dress. Her thumbs were moving quickly. Tessa raised her own device. That is impressive. She is writing the victim statement while the event is still happening. Vanessa pressed her phone to her chest. Are you reading my screen now? You placed the draft in the family group chat, Tessa replied. Vanessa looked down. Her expression collapsed. The unfinished message appeared on the television. She had typed, I tried so hard to be kind, but Claire turned everyone against me tonight. Adrian's family humiliated me simply because I have a heart. Some wives are threatened by childhood bonds. The message had not yet been sent, but Tessa had captured it. Adrian looked at Vanessa. Were you planning to post that before or after everyone finished watching the wine video? Her hands shook. Vivian removed her own phone from her purse. Let us save the family some confusion. She typed a short message into the group chat. Tonight's accusation has been reviewed using security footage. Claire did not push Vanessa. Any additional claims about this evening should be accompanied by evidence. Replies appeared almost immediately. Understood. Has the seating chart policy been updated? Can the chandelier recording be used for educational purposes? I apologize to Claire. Who taught Vanessa to spill wine like an actress? Should we bring popcorn to the next dinner? Then Aunt June wrote, I always knew that girl could cry in different fonts. Tessa gasped. Someone has already turned additional claims should be accompanied by evidence into a sticker. A small gray sticker appeared in the chat featuring a judge's gavel. Another aunt immediately used it during an unrelated argument about a missing casserole dish. Vivian stared at the screen. That is not the correct application of evidence. Martin looked over her shoulder. It is now. I burst out laughing. After months of swallowing poisonous comments, manufactured emergencies, and carefully placed suggestions, the absurdity finally broke through the tension. I laughed until tears gathered in the corners of my eyes. Vanessa stared at me. You think this is funny? Yes, I admitted. I am being humiliated. Claire is not humiliating you, Adrian said. She is allowing you to see your own behavior without cleaning it up for you. Vanessa turned toward him. Desperation sharpened her voice. If Claire truly trusts you, why is she enjoying this? Is this the kind of woman you married? Someone who enjoys watching other people suffer? It was her final tactic. If she could no longer appear innocent, she would accuse me of enjoying justice too much. Adrian did not hesitate. Claire did not create this evening. She only stopped protecting you from the consequences. You do not understand. I understand completely. You wanted my wife to appear cruel whenever she defended herself. Your mistake was assuming she would have to defend herself alone. My fingers tightened around his. I had trusted Adrian throughout our marriage, but hearing him say those words in front of everyone settled something Vanessa had spent months trying to loosen. He stepped closer to her. You were my childhood friend. That does not make you my wife, my responsibility, or a spare room for every emotional crisis you create. This time, real tears filled Vanessa's eyes. You cannot cut me off after everything we went through growing up. After everything we experienced, you should have known better than to target my wife. Vivian folded her hands. And after tonight, you should know better than to target anyone while standing near my television. Martin glanced toward the screen. Or my soup. Tessa added, or my folders. Vanessa looked around the room. For once, no one moved toward her. No one offered her a tissue. No one asked Adrian to comfort her. No one told me to be the bigger person. No one suggested that preserving peace required me to accept another lie. She grabbed her purse and rushed toward the door. At the threshold, she paused. I think she expected someone to call her back. Dramatic departures only work when someone provides an audience for the final scene. No one said a word. Even the television went silent when Vivian lowered the volume. Vanessa left, and the door closed behind her. Martin looked around the table. Can we have dessert now? The room erupted. People laughed louder than the joke deserved because the tension needed somewhere to go. Dinner resumed, although the atmosphere was softer. Several relatives apologized to me. Some looked embarrassed by how easily they had accepted Vanessa's hints. Aunt Helen hugged me and whispered that she should have contacted me months earlier instead of believing what she heard. I accepted the apologies, but I did not rush to erase the discomfort behind them. They needed to understand that listening to a lie had consequences even when they had not invented it. Adrian remained beside me throughout the evening. He was not attached to my side, and he did not make a public show of protecting me. He was simply present. Whenever someone approached, his hand found the back of my chair, my shoulder, or my fingers. The gestures were small, but the message was unmistakable. After dinner, we walked into the garden behind the house. The air smelled of wet grass and jasmine. Through the windows, I could see Tessa replaying the wine footage for two cousins who had missed the slow-motion version. Adrian followed my gaze. I should probably stop her. She looks happy. She created a folder called Vanessa's Greatest Performances. I know. I am trying not to admire the organization. He smiled, but the expression soon faded. How long has this been hurting you? I looked at him. The situation with Vanessa? He nodded. For a moment, I considered minimizing it. Then I told him the truth. It did not hurt because I believed you wanted her. I never thought that. It hurt because she turned every family gathering into a test. I became tired of entering a room and wondering what version of me she had described before I arrived. His face tightened. I am sorry. You never believed her. No, but I allowed the pattern to continue long enough for it to exhaust you. That answer mattered. A defensive man might have insisted that he had done nothing wrong because he had never returned Vanessa's interest. Adrian understood that faithfulness was not the only issue. He had defended me perfectly that evening, but I had been living with the smaller scratches long before the final bite. I trusted you, I said. I hated that she made me feel as though I still had to prove I belonged. You never had to prove your place to me. I know, but sometimes I felt I had to prove it to everyone else in the room. His expression became gentle and fierce at the same time. Then from now on, the room can prove that it deserves you. Those words settled deeper than the public confrontation. Vanessa had never truly threatened my marriage. She had made me tired inside it, and Adrian was not asking me to pretend that exhaustion did not matter. When did you realize what she was doing? I asked. The first time she claimed she did not want trouble and then arrived holding a seating chart. I laughed. Seriously? Fine. The first time she tried to cry, produced no tears, and checked whether I was watching. That sounds more accurate. He looked toward the house. At first, I thought direct boundaries would be enough. Then she began editing messages and telling relatives that you excluded her. If I confronted her without proof, she would have presented you as a jealous wife who forced me to abandon an old friend. I did not want her merely confronted. I wanted her documented. I leaned against him. That may be the most romantic sentence anyone has ever spoken about documentation. He wrapped one arm around me. You were never competing with Vanessa. You are my wife. The competition ended before she realized she had invented one. I closed my eyes. For months, Vanessa had tried to convince me I had married into a life that already belonged to someone else. Standing in the garden with Adrian's jacket around my shoulders, I finally understood what she refused to accept. History was not ownership. A woman could know a man's childhood candy, his teenage haircut, his earliest fears, and every foolish dream he had at 17. None of that gave her a claim on the adult life he consciously chose. Adrian had chosen me, not only when we married, but in hundreds of ordinary decisions afterward. The following morning, Vanessa tried social media. Her post appeared at 9 o'clock. Sometimes the people you believed were family finally reveal their true colors. I was humiliated simply because I cared too deeply. Some wives are threatened by childhood bonds. By 9 to 10, Tessa had posted a restrained clarification. No one was pushed. No one was excluded. Edited versions of recorded events should not be presented as fact. She did not release the footage publicly. She did not need to. Vivian's message had already circulated through the family, and gossip moved faster than any security recording. People in their social circle understood exactly what Vanessa was describing. The comments beneath her post began politely. Perhaps choose a room without cameras next time. The camera apparently had notes. Filed under evidence. Vivian holding the remote was the final boss. Someone posted a photograph of a wine glass with the caption Exhibit A. Another person wrote, "The chandelier angle has my vote." Vanessa deleted the comments. More appeared. She disabled replies, but people moved the jokes to their own pages and private group chats. Before noon, Tessa sent me a collection of screenshots with one message. Her reputation is currently buffering. Vanessa deleted the post before 1 o'clock. Then she texted Adrian. I miss when we were children. You used to protect me. He showed me the message immediately. There was no hesitation and no attempt to handle it privately. He placed the phone on the kitchen counter between us. What do you think I should say? I read it twice. She is still using childhood as an emergency exit. He nodded and typed, I protected people who were honest with me. You tried to harm my wife. Do not contact me again. He showed me the message before sending it. Then he blocked her. That was the end. No long goodbye. No emotional speech giving her one final opportunity to reinterpret his kindness. No hidden softness I was expected to ignore. The door closed with one clean click. Vanessa contacted Tessa next. I cannot believe you did this to me. We were practically sisters. Tessa replied once. Please submit all future childhood claims with dates and supporting documentation. Then she blocked her too. Vivian did not answer Vanessa at all. Somehow, her silence felt colder than any response. Before sunset, Vanessa's name disappeared from the family event list. No one announced an exile. There was no dramatic ceremony. One contact vanished from the group chat. One less place card would be printed for dinner. One less person would be allowed to use childhood memories as a key to a house she kept trying to rearrange. The family she claimed to love simply closed the door. A week later, Vivian hosted another dinner. There was no Vanessa, no altered seating plan, and no wine placed near suspiciously unstable wrists. At the entrance, Tessa had taped a small sign to the sideboard. No green tea near the marriage. Vivian pretended not to notice it. She had placed a silver label on the security remote. It read, Evidence. Martin saw it and sighed. Can we please eat normally for once? Vivian set a salad bowl in the middle of the table. We can, as long as no one attempts to frame the salad. Tessa lifted her glass. 2 honest vegetables. Martin looked at me. I live in a theater. That dinner felt warmer than the one before it. People asked about my work instead of watching to see how I reacted to Vanessa. Aunt Helen saved the last piece of cake for me. Tessa showed me the sticker collection she had created for the family chat. One showed Vivian holding the remote with the words, chandelier angle. Another featured a wine glass labeled, filed under evidence. A third read, further claims require documentation. Martin complained that he could no longer ask where the salt was without Tessa responding with a sticker. Tessa immediately sent one to the family group. Vivian frowned at her phone. Tessa, why? He made a claim. Martin pointed to the salt shaker. The evidence is directly in front of you. When dessert arrived, a cousin asked whether the wine should be served in spill-resistant cups. Vivian looked offended. We are not punishing the wine for Vanessa's decisions. I laughed so hard that I had to set down my fork. Adrian sat beside me because that was where his place card belonged. No one moved it. At one point, Vivian leaned closer. You handled yourself well. You handled the remote well. I practiced. I believe you. Her gaze softened. You are my daughter-in-law, Claire. You are not a guest who needs permission to sit beside her husband. My throat tightened unexpectedly. Thank you. She patted my hand once. Then, apparently uncomfortable with too much sentiment, she looked across the table. Tessa, stop sending the evidence sticker to your aunt. She has used it in 3 unrelated disagreements. Tessa grinned. It is versatile. The joke escaped the house faster than I expected. 2 weeks later, at a charity brunch, one of Vivian's friends began a sentence by saying, I do not want to cause trouble. 3 people immediately looked toward Vivian's handbag. Vivian paused with her teacup halfway to her mouth. Relax. The remote is at home. Everyone waited. Probably, she added. The table burst into laughter. The woman hurried to explain that her complaint concerned the parking arrangement. Martin leaned toward me. Even the parking has witnesses now. That was when I realized Vanessa's tactics had become a joke instead of a threat. Her favorite phrases no longer made people pity her. They made people search the room for cameras. Several months later, we attended a cousin's engagement party. As the server poured the wine, someone asked whether the security footage had been checked first. Vivian accepted her glass calmly. There is no need. Vanessa was not invited. The table laughed freely, not nervously and not cruelly. For the first time, I noticed I was no longer bracing myself. I was not expecting Vanessa to appear with a trembling voice, a convenient injury, or another carefully cropped message. I was not studying relatives' faces to determine which version of me they had heard. My place was no longer being defended. It was simply there. Adrian squeezed my hand beneath the table. Are you still glad you married into this family? I looked at Vivian, who was explaining to Aunt Helen that security cameras were a lifestyle choice. I looked at Tessa, who was trying to convince Martin to let her edit a family dinner recap. Then I looked at my husband, steady, warm, and completely mine in the only way that mattered. I married you, I said. The surveillance system was a bonus. He laughed and kissed my knuckles. Across the room, someone mentioned green tea, and Tessa immediately said, wonderful in a cup, dangerous near husbands. Vivian raised her glass. To documentation. Martin raised his. To dinner. I lifted mine to both. Vanessa had believed she could enter my marriage carrying fake tears, altered memories, and the idea that knowing Adrian first meant she knew him best. What she failed to understand was that a shared childhood was not a lifelong claim. Adrian had already chosen his adult life, and his family had finally stopped allowing her to edit that choice. She arrived at dinner expecting me to defend my place. Instead, the cameras showed that my place had never been in question.